Heroes in Crisis issue 8, Tom King writing with Mitch Gerrards on the art. So I want to start off by saying that, back when this series started, back when Heroes in Crisis started, I liked the feel of it. I liked, the kind of the impending kind of, okay, what's going on? And yes, there was that question of, why are we just finding Wally and Roy's bodies, as if they've been killed off camera? This is kind of, whatever. But it had this feeling to it. I was kind of into it. And parts of the story got better, although parts of it got more tedious. I think the last issue was definitely the one where I was really feeling the fatigue of just it being dragged out to what it was being dragged out to.
Until this issue.
This issue is basically, like, I don't even care if they fix it or how they fix it. I don't think it can redeem the reading experience at this point, because I hated this issue.
Me too, Pete. I'm glad you said it.
Oh, I'm so glad I didn't read this, because if you guys hated it, oh boy.
This is, unless they do something to properly fix this, and by fix this I mean Wally. Unless they do something to properly fix Wally after this and retcon all this shit out of continuity, I would have rather he never came back.
Yeah, I get what King's going for. I get that there's a parable about PTSD and mental illness and lashing out, but the way in which this just holds your hand and explains every little thing that has happened thus far, and it still doesn't feel fulfilling, it sucked. Like, I don't...
The only male positive I can say is that Wally didn't technically intentionally murder everyone at Sanctuary. Right. He just sort of exploded with Speed Force because he couldn't control it because he got emotional, and that killed everyone.
Yeah, he essentially had like a panic attack via Speed Force.
Yes.
And he couldn't control it, therefore...
It's better than him becoming like a sadistic killer and just murdering everyone. So, I mean, points for that, I guess.
But, like... Then him, like, this is a definitely, I don't say because Flash, but there's a term for that. It's Speed Force. I don't have to explain shit, right?
Speed Force, bro.
Yeah, so he, through using the Speed Force, he goes through and pieces together all of the secrets of Sanctuary. He's the one that wrote The Puddlers Are Dead because he remembered a story that Wally, or that Barry had told him, about, that puddlers are these people that take out the impurities of iron, right? But because you take out the impurities, it affects your lifespan because it's a very dangerous job, inhaling all those vapors. So these people that are making things better end up having to sacrifice themselves. All right, I get it. It's all very well researched, and, like, I'm sure this is all part of King's plan. I don't like the way it was executed.
I don't like the concept. Ultimately, I'm at a point now where I don't like this concept for a story. So even if you fix it wonderfully in the last issue, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible that some dramatic point won't make me see the point of all this, right? And make me recontextualize it and think, okay, that's why he did this with the character. That's why he picked Wally. That's why he's going through this specifically. But right now, it feels like there's almost nothing he could do that would make me go, this was worth the journey.
Well, and I feel like you kept saying this won't all matter, and that's why I keep going. Like, I keep feeling like when you involve Booster Gold and Timey-Wimey, and now the Speed Force and Timey-Wimey, I just feel like this is going to be written out of existence.
See, the thing is we find out Wally basically sets up the mystery. He intentionally does all the things, writes the graffiti on the wall, displays the bodies like they are. He makes Harley and Booster each see different version of events, so they both think the other did it. He sets all this up, and he specifically says he wants to set it up so that Barry will overlook things because he knows how he works, and he also things that will make Batman question things, right? He wants Batman to be, deep in the mystery. And this issue doesn't really explain why he wants them to be in such an extreme mystery, other than maybe he just wants it to be unsolvable. But the whole thing is that he's recording this confession and sending it to Lois Lane. He ends with saying, Miss Lane, this is my confession, blah, blah, blah. I don't know where it's going with this for its final issue, and part of me just doesn't give a shit anymore.
Yep.
I'm
at the same. I'm not one for, like, that hates, like, walking you through, but this just felt super, like, lazy.
Was this issue
on the creator's part? That's all it is.
It's just
his confession.
It's Wally telling his story of everything he's done since he's been at Sanctuary, and
Right.
just going through it all.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even have characters uncover the mystery. They don't get to the bottom of it.
No.
All the investigation is pointless. We're just going to have them.
Mhm.
Oh, well, we'll just tell you.
But it's also Wally saying that was his point, is because his point is people shouldn't have to go through this stuff alone, and that's a very noble intent out of Tom King, because with the Sanctuary, with the way that it was set up, everyone's dealing with it through their own way. There's no actual therapist to help you get through this stuff. And that's why Wally ended up having this explosion of Speed Force energy that killed everybody, because it got too much for him to handle. And so the whole point is that no one should have to go through this stuff alone, and he's alone, and that's why this all happened. Again, that's a very it's a very interesting, and in today's society, it's a good message, right? Like, but the way that King unveils it all, again, it's all exposition. It's all Wally going, well, I did this, and then I went and did this, and then this happened because...
I mean, no, but so you're talking about craft here. You're talking about how it's executed. Yeah. I don't even care about craft at this point. I just hate the concept. You've turned Wally into a killer of a bunch of people, and you've made him more depressed than he's ever been before. And obviously, I like the idea of exploring that his wife and kids are missing, and that would have him be down. But we're at a point now where he feels like he can't even get past it. That short of the wife, even if the wife and kids came back, even if Linda and the kids came back, like at the end of this series they somehow brought them out of the Speed Force, out of continuity, and into this world. He will be a wreck because of what he's done. So it has to be erased in some way, and he cannot remember it because it's just such a dark thing, and it feels like character assassination. I hate to use that phrase, but it feels like character assassination, and I would rather he didn't come back if this is what it was all going to build. And I do have to wonder, like, did Williamson do Flash War as a sort of last hurrah, knowing what Wally was going to be done, what was going to happen to him next?
See, and I hope that's not the case, because Williamson's really excited to be working on whatever is coming next. Like, remember, he has this other series that's coming, and he always said how excited he was to work on the Flash, and Wally was his Flash. So I always took that as, hey, maybe we're going to get some other Wally-centric series, some team book or something. I don't know. And now I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we hope for, but like at this point, it kind of feels like...
It feels like they took that away. Like, all the possibility of redeeming Wally now, like you said, is like...
And like I said, by the end of issue 9, the final issue, it might change everything, it might retcon things, it might fix it all. And that's okay going forward for future things, but it does not justify or redeem this story where I'm like, I care about this story anymore, I want to read this story. Right. As soon as we started getting hints that Wally might be the killer, and we saw this cover for issue 8, and it was like, this looks like they're going down this path, nothing about this, like... And okay, like so people bring up Identity Crisis, and okay, I imagine yes, there might be like Ralph Dibny fans, a lot less of them in Wally West, but but there might be Ralph Dibny fans who hate that story because it kind of takes away that character could never be the same after that story. And most of us didn't really care if we liked the story because we didn't really care about Ralph Dibny being Ralph Dibny forever because he's Ralph Dibny, and it doesn't mean that much to a lot of people.
Right, but still, in that moment with Ralph, like, there's this empathy where you root for this to, like, you got to find out who did this, right? And I feel here, there's nothing to root for besides, like, this being all undone. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's true, yeah, that's a fair point to make if you're comparing them. And I want to acknowledge that, yes, if you were a Ralph Dibny fan when Identity Crisis came out, I get that probably destroyed that character for you in a way that you can never go back, barring, full-on retcons and continuity wipes and whatever else.
Which they seem to have been heading towards, like, the first time in a while, where we're seeing Ralph pop up, or at least his name.
Yeah, and I just... But I liked that story, I liked how it was written, I liked how it affected DCU. I felt like more things were coming out of it that mattered. Here in this story, I mean, right now at least... Outside of characters in Green Arrow and Flash reacting to deaths of characters, none of the effects of what happened in Heroes in Crisis have been felt anywhere in terms of plot, in terms of Sanctuary, in terms of...
There was just a mention of it in Doomsday Clock, like number 5,
Mm.
6, one of those ones. But other than that, it all like that felt like an afterthought.
Yeah, I really I mean, obviously I'm going to read the last issue now. I'm not going to
Yeah,
like.
yeah. Well, because I have to know how, because Booster, him going to Ted, I don't think factored into Wally's plan, right? And Harley going to Babs. So I feel like that throws a wrench in it. And so we find out that the dead body is from 5 days in the future when Wally's basically going to kill himself. So I feel like
Yeah, if
they're
you
going
want
to stop him from doing
if
that.
you wanted a panel of Wally West speeding behind himself to snap his own neck, this
Yeah.
book's got you covered.
Yep. So you throw a wrench in that time loop, and I feel with Booster, that's
Joe, really is bizarre to me is that Mr. Miracle was a fantastic book, and we spent like sometimes close to an hour just deconstructing each issue, talking about what each scene meant,
Yeah.
how it related to the overall themes of the book, and this book comparison's kind of a mess, and I'm really struggling to see what the point of some of the decisions are. And I get what you're saying about how they're not doing this alone, and it's kind of almost a meta thing where because Wally keeps talking about how everyone's pinning like the hope of the world on him because he represents hope and how much stress that causes them and blah 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 blah. Like I appreciate what it's doing there, but it just it's
the execution's not there for that. Like to turn it into a murder mystery instead of like that was the cool thing about Mr. Miracle. It wasn't like a mystery. It was almost like a slice of life in Barda and Scott's life.
I mean, execution's off, but I go back to just pure concept. Conceptually, there's problems with just what the idea is here. At least, and again, maybe the last issue will make it all magically work, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt the last issue is going to make me look back at this one and go, "Oh, that was worth doing all that."
This is one that when it started, I went, "Oh, this will be like a trade on my shelf, like Identity Crisis. That if someone has questions, I can give it to them to read." This is just like I don't want anything to do with it now. This issue really upset me. Like
Yeah,
and not just because I'm a well, yeah, like not just because I'm a big Wally fan. And I don't agree with what they're doing with him, but it just like Pete said, it's a mess, and it's almost unjustified with why. Like so Johns brings Wally back because everyone's been crying for Wally, and then like what? Didi will be like, oh no, we're gonna, hey Kane, you can use Wally. Let's turn him into this terrible wreck of a character. I don't know where the thought process was.
It does feel like whatever plans Johns wanted for Walt, or even other things that Rebirth promised in a lot of ways. As much as like I'm loving Doomsday Clock, and Doomsday Clock feels like it's delivering the big epic thing that Rebirth set up.
When it is delivered.
Yeah, but the promise
eventually,
of everything that was in Rebirth that was promised to kind of spiral out into the books, that's kind of dissipated over time. Because it's funny because we're loving Aquaman right now. Aquaman is great, but Rebirth did promise they were getting married, like, and that was 3 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like whatever the plans were, they changed from these are hard set plans, so this is a jumping off point.
No, the plans were John set up these plans, and then Didio and co didn't want to follow them.
They ousted him, and it's like, look, you go do your own thing. You get your whatever his label's called now.
What is that called?
Killzone or something like that.
Killzone, that's right.
Right. You go do your stuff in the corner, do whatever you want, and we'll take the main toys and do our thing.
Right. Yeah. And I'm okay with going back to a day where he's not dictating the creative focus, but they leave him alone to tell his stories. Like they did back then before he was promoted. So I just long for those days because, man, those days when Blackest Night was coming out and a new Green Lantern book came out, like I was rushing to the comic shop to get that, and I miss those days. Like I did not have that feeling with Heroes in Crisis 8. Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna read this first, but
I didn't. I was putting it off.
I had to know. I had to because I knew this was the big this is where it comes together.
The answers issue.
Yeah, it was a thud.
I put it off till like the middle of my pile because
I will say I did like the art.
Oh yeah, Mitch Garrett's art's fantastic.
Positive.
Yeah.
Who'd have guessed?
The shots of Wally, sitting in a field, and he's all you know. It's kind of like Superman the movie when Clark's in the cornfield. It's kind of got that kind of vibe to it. It looks great. It's gorgeous. More depressing in tone, obviously, than those scenes in Superman, but I guess we should rate Heroes in Crisis, Matt. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, you go first, because I want to see how.
No, you go first.
Fine, I'm giving it a 4.5.
Matt thinks he could just flip it.
Yeah.
4.5, yeah. 3. What'd you guess for the art? Because the art's good.
Yeah.
Oh, I hated it.